There's some incredible TV coming out of the UK right now. Brits just do it differently. The accents, the wit, the scenery, the devastating one-liners disguised as compliments. It's all streaming on BritBox. They have the best mysteries, dramas, comedies, and seriously addicting originals like Outrageous, based on the true story of the Mitford sisters. They were kind of like the Kardashians of the 1930s, wealthy, audacious, chaotic, wildly opinionated, and always making headlines. And chances are you've never heard their story. It's stunning. It's jaw-dropping. It's very British. So check out Outrageous. It could be your next favorite. Don't miss Outrageous, streaming now only on BritBox.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Welcome one, welcome all to a podcast in which we celebrate DIY culture from punk, hardcore, indie rock, emo, metal, pop punk, whatever subgenre you want to throw on it, as long as it has come from small, sweaty rooms and the DIY spaces that we all hold dear. That is what we are documenting here in the form of a podcast that I like to call an audio zine. You know, this is not something that is a revolutionary idea, but I've been at this now for, 10, 12, 11 years. I don't know, somewhere around there. And it gets more and more engaging for me to have these conversations with people. And today is a prime example of that because we have Dan Campbell from The Wonder Years on the podcast. He's the vocalist of the band, and he's been on not only my radar as a human being, but a radar as far as a guest of this show for quite some time. We have a lot of mutual friends, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I need to reach out, formally schedule Dan. And then, it happened. And we are talking about a lot of different things, including playing live and making sure that that is still something that the band wants to do and he's engaged with, as well as we're talking about, well, we actually didn't talk about this, but they have a new Burst and Decay release, Volume 3, that just came out in early May, and they're on tour right now in support of it, literally on the last 3 days, and then they're doing some, Riot Fest and other festivals in the late summer and early fall, so, keep your ears peeled, eyes peeled, whatever peeled for what the Wonder Years has going on. But Dan is such a great dude, great chat, and I think you'll enjoy this. Let's talk about the weekly recommendations. Every week, I dial in, whether it's new music, old music, something that's new to me, I compile it in a playlist. The link is in the show notes for you to be able to hopefully discover new music or something you haven't heard before. This particular release is not fully out yet, but the band is called Skinhead. The record that they have coming out on Closed Casket Activities, I think in July, if I'm not mistaken, could be sooner. It's called It's a Beautiful Day, What a Beautiful Day. Now, truthfully, they came out with, I want to say an EP, full length, 2023, and I was just like, whatever. It didn't bowl me over. It didn't keep me listening to it, but I was like, okay, cool. I clocked it because it's all members of very important bands, whether it's, Criminal Instinct and God's Hate and Terror and all that sort of stuff. It's, a bunch of friends in that scene. But these 3 songs that they put out are poetic. It's beautiful, even though it is done with the, sort of skinhead, oi, hardcore combo that this band is known for. And when I say even though, it's like a lot of times people don't equate, intelligence or thoughtfulness in regards to this particular genre. And I'll disagree because there are a lot of bands that do that very, very well. And these songs bowled me over. There's 3 songs out right now. You can stream it. And it's incredible. It's lyrically, musically, it all combined in this great soup that I personally love. So I highly recommend you checking it out. And like I said, it's coming out on Closed Casket Activities. It's an LP, and I'm thrilled to hear more. So check that out. You can also support the show by reaching out to us, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. Love to receive any and all feedback, guest ideas, just general stuff you want to talk about. Always happy to engage. And also leave a rating and review on the Apple Podcast page, or simply leave a rating on Spotify. All of those things help the algorithm to recommend this show to the people it needs to get recommended to. Because, I mean, after all, I've been doing this for sometimes it feels like longer than podcasts have been alive, which I know that sounds like a humble brag or whatever, but sometimes it needs to get out to newer people where they're like, hey, what's a new, hardcore podcast or whatever. And it's like, well, I've been here for longer than the dawn of time, so maybe pay attention to this. I digress, but yes, let's talk to Dan from the Wonder Years right now.
My observation for the Wonder Years, and something that I've been fascinated with bands that obviously start as like a joke, where it's like, oh yeah, here we are. Here's this band. Yeah, exactly. But then they obviously grow to be something serious and, something that is artistically worthwhile versus the joke that may have started. I'm sure that like once it became clear that this was more serious than anything that ever was intended, how did you, either in your own brain or obviously collectively with the band, start to manage that idea of being like, because I know at one point you guys were just like, yo, we got to change our name. Like, we're not going to have the Kool-Aid guy on our record cover anymore. Like, there were so many discussions you probably had. How did you, I guess, navigate that as you were starting to realize that this was the band name and this is what you're going to have to do?
I think that like it wasn't like kind of one conversation. I think really for me it started with we did our first like full US tour, and we were out there playing these songs that were jokes, and I was watching other bands play songs that meant something to them, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I hate this. I am not a comedian, right? Like, it's just not like I'm
right.
here for that. If I'm gonna fuck up my life, like fuck up relationships, fuck up college, change the trajectory of what I'm doing, I want it to be for something that I believe in, like music that I believe is good and has value. And so after we did this full US tour, on that first record, I was like, well, I'm done. That was good. I'm going to, I can't dedicate more of my time to this show. And so I was kind of just over it, and I was just going to finish school. And, you mentioned Chris and No Sleep Records, and Chris reached out and said, hey, I think you should do something else. The guy that you really wanted to produce the first full length, which is Vince Ratty, is available, and I'd love to do a 7-inch. And I was like, well, that does sound cool. Like, I really did always want to record with Vince, and it would be cool to be able to have a piece of music I made on vinyl, right? Which at the time seemed like impossible to attain. And so we said, okay, well, yeah, why don't we'll write a 7-inch. And I had just kind of made the decision that I was going to try to shift away from the jokes. And I thought it would be jarring to do it kind of all at once. And so, like, if you listen to Won't Be Pathetic Forever, which I consider to be like the first thing of any real value that we made, there were still, plenty of little like in jokes and bits in it, but the subject matter is heavier and spoke more truly to like who I was at the time and what kind of art I wanted to make. And we made that. And I remember we put it out, and like everything started changing kind of fast at that point. Like, our listenership was going up like way more rapidly. The responses I was getting from people, even from like friends, like I remember like Kyle from Fireworks calling me and being like, hey, this song's good. Like, I didn't, because like we were friends with everybody, but no one thought that their songs were good. They weren't.
Sure.
And I remember being outside a show, and Bear from Mannequin Pussy, way before he was in Mannequin Pussy, was talking to me about Won't Be Pathetic Forever, and was like, man, it feels like you've been hiding in my car listening to the things I've been thinking and writing them down. And I was like, oh shit, we connected with somebody. Like, somebody's connected with this. Like, maybe there's something of value here, or maybe we could keep doing it. And that 7-inch really changed me from like, I'm going to quit my joke band and never think about it again, to like, maybe we could turn this into something that has value to people.
Yeah. I appreciate that description because it does, especially when you are of that age. And I mean, it's cool that you recognize that so clearly at your age of being like, listen, this is not fun for me to watch these people earnestly expressing themselves. And I'm just like this idiot, like I don't feel right about this.
It's just, I mean, and like, I'm not saying that there's a problem with that, or that there's like no space in music for comedy or in comedy for music or any of those things, or no space for bands that are just for fun. And I love that. I loved doing it just for fun when it was a thing we did one weekend every other month in our town. But when it became a thing that we were going to take on the road to people, it's just like, that wasn't fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and to your point too, it's like the things that start as a joke and they grow to something large. Like I'm just thinking of random things like, that band Good Clean Fun, or like Adam and His Package, like these things that, become much larger than anybody ever anticipated, because on paper you're just like, no one's going to care about this. This doesn't make any sense. And then they are able to stick in that lane of, earnestly expressing themselves, but in a joking manner. And then there's still value. But to your point of just being like, oh yeah, like there's probably something more out there. And I'm not going to ruin my life for, a joke band. Like this is not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it was the kind of thing where like, all your friends are moving on, and like you just all of your relationships are falling apart because you're never home. And it's like, I don't know if these songs about dinosaurs are worth that, man.
Right. You're like, I don't know how committed to this bit I am. Okay. We'll pull apart more of that in a little bit, but I want to focus on you. You correct me if I'm wrong, but like Pennsylvania born and raised, right?
Yeah. Born in Philadelphia, and I lived kind of right outside the city up until college, and then I moved into Philly to go to Temple, and then we started touring full time, and I still lived in PA up until we had my oldest son, and now I live like 8 minutes over the bridge, because the way anyone who's from Philadelphia could tell you that the highway system makes the city like deeply inaccessible. Like it is hard to get into it on a weekday, and it just made my wife's commute to work easier. It's easier to hop across a bridge than it is to try to get down 76.
Right. This is a very random question, but do you ever remember at Temple, there was a venue, well, I think it was a venue, but they call it the Owl Cove. I don't know if that...
I never played it, but I went and saw... I believe it was The Progress and Zoloft the Rock and Roll Destroyer play it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was fortunate enough. I played a show there with, it was very early, in the Seosin trajectory. I think it was honestly like their 6th or 7th show, but I just remember that particular campus being so, interesting, because I was just like, how normally the venues that are maybe attached to a college campus are like in the auxiliary. This one was like at the heart of everything. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, this is so interesting and cool. And I just found that, to be captivating about, what Temple was obviously trying to create. And I know at one point they had a music business class taught by Darren from Jade Tree. Like it was a lot.
I mean, the thing about Temple, there's a lot of people that go there just to be in, like, there are plenty of people that I know that went to Temple just to skate it, right? There's like a legendary 12 set. There's like the like down set area next to Cecil B. Moore. There was a skate video made just called I'd Rather Skate Cecil. And so, yeah, there was plenty of that, and like I never lived on campus. I had a very detached college experience because I lived in South Philly. I ride my bike up every day. I was taking as many classes as I could at once because I was trying to get done so we could go on tour. And I was teaching an after-school program off campus. And then every weekend, I got in the van. Every summer break, I got in the van. I was really like myopically focused on the band. It's like I made like no friends in my classes, no study groups. No, I was like, I'm here to get the thing done and then get back to the gig.
Right. Move on. Like this is the college was an impediment to you being able.
I was joking with this. I never had a meal plan. I never had the diamond dollars. I never had the anything. I just I'd show up, and there was a place on campus called the Bagel Hut where you could get a breakfast or lunch sized bagel. And the breakfast size was cheaper. And so, it was $2.10 to get, was it $4? It's $4.10 to get a bagel with turkey and cheese and like an Everfresh juice. And that's what I got every day for lunch, unless it was too cold to ride my bike. And then I spent that $4 on the subway, and I didn't eat lunch. So I never really had like a meal plan or anything. It was just I wasn't too attached to it. I look back at it now with like a fondness for what it did for a lot of communities, like the skate community and a lot of music communities in the city. And it's a lot of cool shit that came out of Temple. And but when I was there, I was like, I got to get back in the van.
Right. Yeah. You're like this. Yeah. This is all fine. But, the real purpose for me being here is obviously, 10-hour drives. And what kind of kid would you characterize yourself as you were, starting to develop an identity, like, junior high, high school and stuff like that? Were you, I know sports has always been a strong love of yours. Were you a sports kid, or did you care about school? What did you find yourself getting into?
I would say I was a good kid. I was like a well-behaved kid. I never really got in a lot of trouble. I think that I did love sports, but at a certain point, right around the end of junior high, I realized like I'm too small. Like I wanted to play football. I played football through elementary school, but I was never putting on any weight. And so by the time I got up to like 6th grade, I was just getting thrown around. I was still the same weight I was in 3rd grade. And, then I got into middle school, and I was like, well, I guess I can try wrestling because that's by weight class. And I was wrestling 98 pounds freshman year of high school. I was just bones. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. And my friend had a bass, and he said, will you play bass in my band? I'll teach you how to play it. And I said, sure. And that sent me down a totally different path, obviously. And I spent all of high school, like, just booking punk rock shows. That's all I did.
Okay.
In school was like, people did their different extracurriculars and whatever. I was never there early, and I was never there late. I was calling the local VFW and lying to them about my age and getting one friend with a PA system. And I was putting on shows, every other week, maybe VFW halls. Then that would get shut down. You would do it in the side room of a church, which would get shut down. We would do it in the basement of a library, which would get shut down. Then we go to the Boys and Girls Club, and then we'd circle back to the VFW, and they had forgotten at that point, and they wanted the money again. And I would just bring in punk and hardcore bands from like the tri-state, even up to like Connecticut, Massachusetts, and bring people down and throw shows. That was most of what I did in high school, was like DIY shows.
I love that. I mean, you're a focused individual, obviously, just in the way that you are, describing yourself, and the commitment that you had to a lot of things. I loved that experience, especially in your area in particular. And I think anybody that's ever toured experiences it, where it's like you can be located in Jersey, but play like 6 shows in the area and then like go back to the same place to stay. And you're just like, me being from the West Coast in Southern California, I'm just like, that is so nice. But there's so much activity that you yourself, I could bring all these bands from all of these areas because it's all within shouting distance. And, yes, they're going to come to Bucks County because I'm booking a show here.
Yeah, I mean, you could play Montgomery County where we were from, and then you could play Philly and it would be a totally different crowd, and you could play South Jersey. I mean, it's not like these were like massive shows. We put 150, 200 people in this VFW hall, and it felt special. It felt like, what I loved about it is like me and my friends could do it. We didn't need anybody's help. We didn't need like an adult in the room. We could figure it all out ourselves.
It's beautiful. Yeah. What, not to embarrass you, but what, of course you all make mistakes when you are that age and you have no idea what you're doing. And, oh my gosh, I promised this band, $200 and I should have paid them, $400 or whatever. What are some of those mistakes that you made in your early show promotion that, you reflect on being like, that was funny, I did that?
I think every once in a while, I'm such a pragmatic guy. Like I was always like really planned for everything. But I think me and some other friends have made the same mistake a couple of times where you're like, you know what? We could probably pull off an outdoor show in November. And then like nobody's fingers can play. But it's just like, well, the indoor venue closed and this pavilion in the woods said yes. So let's do it. Those were kind of more my mistakes.
Right.
Or, trying to help out a touring band where they need a show on a Wednesday. And it's just like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I really cannot get a lot of people in here on a Wednesday. Like, these are 16-year-olds. Their parents aren't going to let them go to.
Right. What was the family structure like in the house? Like mom and dad, brothers and sisters? What did that look like?
Mom, dad, younger brother. My parents split when I was like 14, 15. And through the end of high school, my dad lived in the house I grew up in, and my mom lived in an apartment nearby. And I would just switch every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And, even that, like, it was almost the same way that it was for me at Temple. Like, I was so focused on music on my bands and on booking shows that, like, I was never really home. Like, I was locked in on the thing I was doing. And also, like, I just worked a lot, like, to pay for some of these shows and to, like, make some of this shit happen. I was just, like, the kind of kid that, like, I worked at a retirement home kitchen through most of high school. And then I ended up working at Chuck E. Cheese for a while. And I was just the kind of kid that was like, school's over, I go right to work, I do the thing, I save the money, we go on tour, or I put on a show with it.
Right. It's all investing back in the thing that I care about.
When I tell you I was focused on it, I was focused on it. Like, it's got a lot to do with me being straight edge, is that I was like, I don't have time for any of that bullshit, man. I got shit to do.
I'm glad that you mentioned the edginess of yourself, because I did forget that that was part of you. Because I think that, I mean, I'm a straight edge adult, and I do look back at that where it's like, all of the idle time that many kids are spending with parties or whatever, it's like we were just doing all the things because we're like, we're not gonna go to this party, of course, like we're gonna go to this show or put on this show or try to put out a demo tape from a friend. Like, you just have all this energy you gotta put somewhere.
I'm 39 now and I've never had a beer. And like, so now, like, when you meet like other parents at a party and you're like, oh, I don't drink, they're like, they assume that, like, like maybe you're taking the week off, or it's like sober January, or maybe you had a problem. Like, no, I've never drank.
Totally. You don't have the time to be like, hey, I'm straight edge, and they're like, what? You're like, don't worry about it, it's fine.
I'll send you a link to the Project X EP, and then we'll figure it out.
Totally. And then let me know what questions you have after that.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at Rockabilia. And I was literally on their website 2 days ago because my son is in a huge classic rock kick, and he wanted to find Rolling Stones, The Who, maybe a little Beatles merch. And I showed him the website, and he was like, this is real? I can order all this stuff from one spot? And I said, yes. You can also use the promo code 100 words or less. It gets you 10% off of your first order. And I don't care if you're into hardcore, punk, metal, I don't know, pop, rap, all that stuff. You will be able to find it at rockabilia.com. And what makes it even cooler is this is all officially licensed stuff. So that means the bands get paid, you get great merch, everybody wins in this scenario. They ship it from the Midwest here in the United States of America. It gets to you very quickly. And if you have any issues whatsoever, you will be able to get it recovered fast with their amazing customer service. And no joke, 500,000 items, you will find something for yourself, for your friends, your family, or in my case, my son. It was just so much easier to show him one site that was able to get him exactly what he needed. And he is so excited to get that merch. So anyways, rockabilia.com, longtime supporter, and I will buy from them until I can't order from the internet anymore, which that sounds even weird to say. But anyways, rockabilia.com, use the promo code 100 words or less now.
How did you get introduced to, punk and hardcore kind of in general, like the DIY stuff that you were getting into? Was that obviously the infancy of the internet? Was it just like, friends that were ping-ponging around? What was happening?
It's long standing in our town. Like, it existed before me. And I feel like I was one of the torchbearers for a while and then handed that down to, and it's still like, we're multiple generations away from it at this point, and it's still going. But yeah, I mean, so for me, like, I was drawn to guitar music, but the stuff that was popular guitar music wise, I didn't really actually like. Like, I would pretend to like it. And I mean this with no disrespect to any of these bands. But like, there was that like late 90s like nu metal surge. And I was like, well, it's got a guitar. I guess. I guess I can like it. But I never really did. And it wasn't until I found, it was like Blink was obviously like an easy intro. I guess going even further back, like my dad was young, my parents were young. And so he was listening to stuff as it came out. Like, a lot of people talk about how their parents listened to like the Doors or the Stones or whatever. We didn't listen to any of that in the car. We listened to Beck Odelay. We listened to Radiohead OK Computer and Weezer Blue and, Nevermind. And like, that was what was getting played. And so I loved it, but it didn't feel like it was mine. That was like my parents' music, which is such a funny thing to say. I was talking to my bass player about this because like Super Drag had like a big like kind of like almost punk resurgence recently, or like punk adjacent resurgence, where like all of these people in like hardcore and punk started to love Super Drag. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a band my dad listened to that I used to rock with a lot, but like it was not mine. Like, we listened to Regretfully Yours all the time, but it was not me putting it on. And so then when I found Blink, I was like, oh, this is like, because I loved Boyz II Men. I loved, like Motown stuff. And I was like, oh, here's like guitar music with like a pop sensibility. And that was the gateway drug to like the Get Up Kids and the entire Vagrant catalog. And then eventually into like the Saddle Creek stuff and, just all of that, all of the punk, all the emo, all of that shit. And it was when I was kind of getting into that stuff that some of my friends who were friends with like older people were like, yo, there's a punk scene here. And so I think that the first show I went to, I can't remember if the first show was Inkling or Cypher. Do you remember Cypher?
Oh, yeah. Dude, Inkling too.
So
Yeah.
I think I went to the Cypher Burnt Halos record release where the singer started with "The only real thing in life is action" and ended the set by smashing his mic stand and like fucking up the linoleum tile at the Knights of Columbus. And like, I was like watching, everyone had left and I was waiting for my ride with Nick, who's in Wonder Years now. Like, we were waiting for his dad to come pick us up, and we're just watching the singer argue with this old man at Knights of Columbus as to why they should still get paid. And he's like, and then, and then seeing England play, probably my second show. I forget the order. They were really close to each other. And seeing Brian, who now plays piano for the Starting Line, fronting this band and being like, and we're just watching the room ignite. And I was like, yo, I love this energy. Like, this is what I'm about. Like, there's just this like pulse through the room. Like, the air is on fucking fire and everyone is just a part of this mass of people. And it just felt special to me. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want my band to play shows like this. If there's no shows happening, I want to book them. Like, I want to make this shit happen.
Yeah, that's so, I love those deep cuts of bands because it's like when you see something not only local, but then you're able to attach like the realness of these humans to it as well. Like, watching the singer argue about getting paid, you're just like, they're real people. Like, it's not just,
at that point. So I think Cypher was brought down by Mitch, who sang in like 13 PFP and then Forever I Burn. And like, he was kind of one of the older guys that was bringing a lot of bands to town. And, Now She's Gone and those kinds of bands. I was like, dude, this is cool. I could do this.
Yeah, absolutely. You've playing a little armchair psychologist. You've always struck me as a private person, but even though much of your life you have lived in public, as far as expressing yourself and getting on stage and everything, and hearing about your experiences, like putting on the shows and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of public facing stuff that you have to do there. How have you, I guess, kind of navigated those two sides of yourself? Like, do you have to, after you play, do you have to have the, 15 minutes of decompression time? Like, how do you, I guess, balance those two personalities inside of you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really feel like I need decompression time. In fact, like, I love coming off stage and like dapping up everybody back there and saying, and just, I still have so much energy. I like that. I like hanging with the support acts. Like, a big part of what we do now at this stage in our career, look, I feel like, is trying to help young bands and trying to see them win. And so like a lot of what we consider our job at this point is like being available. Any questions you have, like any you want to know how we do this or how we did this thing, like any advice you need, anything you want to talk about. I like talking to people backstage. I think the private thing for me is like, I don't really like social media. I'm not good at it. I don't like using it. I don't like the way that it commodifies my humanity. I understand that it is like a necessary thing. I like using it for like, I like interacting with my friends on it, but like I don't.
Right, like keeping in touch, right?
Being like a public figure so much. And I would say that's like, and then the other thing is like, by being, I take my job real seriously, right? Like I think it is like a covenant I'm entering into with the fans that if I'm asking them to buy a ticket, that I owe them like everything my body has to give that night. And so I'm the first one in bed. Like my recovery time is really important to me. And I think that also allows me that alone time too. So like a show finishes, I'm going to lay on the ground until I stop sweating. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to go to bed. That's my night. Like there is no after party for me.
Sure.
And sing well tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I'm not going to say this, but I'm going to say this. Like, you're an athlete, dude. You're basically like LeBron James, like you're putting yourself in the hyperbaric chamber.
LeBron and I, and we talk about it back and forth. I'll FaceTime. I'm like, hey, how did you recover from, like when you were dragging the Cavs through the finals basically by yourself?
Yep.
He's got a lot of great points, but yeah, I do like at this point, like it's different. It's different to be nearing 40. Like these are like arbitrary numbers, but you used to put in 5 and get back 10. Hey, I'm going to do a little bit of rest and recovery and a little bit of like conditioning work. And then for a while it was like you put in 8 and you're getting back 10. You put in 10, you're getting back 10. Now I got to put in 20 to get back 8. Like before,
right.
Yesterday, I'll do it again today. Like before a tour, I get on the Peloton bike. I don't have the subscription or anything. I just press just ride. And then I try to hold a 20-mile-an-hour pace while singing through our set to condition myself to go do it on stage.
Okay.
And this next tour we have coming up is an acoustic tour. So I'm holding a little bit slower of a pace. So I'm holding like 18. But, I'm trying to sing for, today I'm going to try to do a full hour. And eventually the goal is to get up to, and it's like kind of like training with weights on, because like there's no break for water. There's no stopping when to talk. The songs play one into each other and I just sing.
Right. Which I love the different ways that people approach, getting ready for something, whatever that may be. But I just love like the hack in your brain where it's like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be, my heart rate's elevated, like all of these things, and the perfect solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Something that, the word earnestness is never not mentioned in regards to, the Wonder Years and or Dan Campbell in general. The thing that I've always appreciated about the way that you've expressed yourself is like you, and I know not disparaging any bands in the pop punk genre at large, but like, sometimes there's like no maturity that happens with these bands. It's like they're just locked in and like this is what they're singing about forever. I mean, I love Blink just as much as the next person, but there's, an element of just like, really? You're singing about, dicks and farts still? Which is great, to be clear. You've aged with it, and I know that's been a very like intentional focus of yours as well. Was that something that you were really passionate about early on, or did you, I guess kind of have the foresight initially to think about this way? Or was it always just like, I'm literally plucking this stuff from my life right now and this is what I'm experiencing?
I think that it is a combination, right? Because like obviously it started as a joke, so I can't say that it was with
Right.
like then. And like also like I think that what works for one person doesn't work for everyone. And yeah, like Blink are going to make their dick and fart jokes. It's what they're going to do. It's what people want. And it's what they want to do. It makes them happy. It brings them the joy that they need to continue performing. Fuck yeah. All right. That's fine.
Totally.
For me as a listener, I felt pandered to when I would hear albums from bands that were aging but we're writing the same lyrics or this exploring the same concepts, talking about things the same way, because it felt like you were trying to write a record that you thought I would like. And I was like, that's not what I'm interested in. For one thing, I also have aged, and like, please, like, it almost felt like they weren't respecting my intelligence. Like, you don't believe that I can understand like a deeper or more mature concept. And I just was like, I'm never going to do that. Whether it works or doesn't is almost irrelevant to me. Like, I didn't want to do that. There were definitely people, you know, before we put out our last record, that were like, are people going to be able to relate to these songs about like your like postpartum depression and like fatherhood and like, you know, a rapidly ending world? And if it's like, it almost doesn't matter. I'm making it because it's the thing that I think is, that I can sing about. I feel like it's important to make. But I do believe that they'll understand it. I do believe that they'll connect with it. Even when they're not parents, I think that they'll connect with it. I don't think that you have to have experienced the exact same thing to connect with the root emotion. Like, you don't have to be a parent to understand how to feel protective of someone in your life, to love someone so fully that you worry about them and the way that things as they're presently unfolding will affect them. Isn't like an exclusively a parent-child scenario. I think, and I've said this a million times, and I'm sorry to repeat it on your podcast. You clip it if you want. But I believe that for a lot of artists, a false binary exists where they believe that either they can make art that they will like or that their fans will like. And I just don't think that that's true. I think that it is entirely possible to make art that fulfills you and that your fan base will resonate with. And I think that there are a lot of records I want to make on any given day, right? Like, I want to make kind of like Springsteen-y narrative, like folk punk rock shit. And so I do that just in a different band. That's what Aaron West is for. Michael wants to make music that sounds like Converge and Trash Talk. And so he does that. He does it in Skull Presser. And like, yeah, do I want to make a record that sounds like The Minor Times? Yes. Do I want to make a record that sounds like Defeater? Yes. But I also want to make a record that sounds like The Wonder Years. And so that's what The Wonder Years did. There is space to make all of the music you want and to put it under whatever banner you want to put it under. And so like, I've always believed that like there exists each time a Wonder Years record that we'll love and our fans will love. And then that's the one that I want to make.
Right. Yeah. And truthfully, like what you're talking about in regards to the universality of emotions and these things are not exclusive. Like, I mean, that's what, you know, so many people have articulated very well over the past, 10 or 15 years, where it's like the universality in the specificity. And it's just like, that's where like people get attracted to that. They're just like, oh my gosh, they mentioned this freeway in Southern California. So like, of course I'm going to love Limbeck or whatever. And it's like, but everybody has a freeway. Everybody has these things. You're just pulling from it. And so I love how you're approaching it, where it's like you have these different avenues to express yourself. Because I mean, I'm sure like, I specifically remember when, you know, when Aaron West came out and it was just like, is he playing a character? Like, who does he think he is? Like, I'm just being the internet in general. Yeah, yeah, this wasn't me specifically saying this, but just that idea of like, yeah, this is a different vehicle. And truthfully, like, I mean, if he tried any of this within the context of the Wonder Years, like people would just be like, what is this, his band now? And it's like, that's way too complicated, man.
Yeah, I think you can make the art you want to make. And that like, I wanted to make the, you know, character study like band. And like, people really like it, and it's all fiction. It's all narrative. And people still really relate to that too. So I think it shows, like how many times has a movie affected you that wasn't a documentary? The idea that the idea that fiction can't be impactful or connective, always seemed strange to me, but it's, but it's notably not what the Wonder Years do. Right. And so it couldn't happen with the Wonder Years. It would have almost run, perpendicular to what we do. And I think that what is it that I'm trying to say? In the sense of earnestness and in the sense of making music or making art, another thing that I have said a million times and apologized for is that you create art because you are compelled to, right? There's something that you're processing and the way you process it is through making art. And whether it's joy or trauma or whatever it is, you make the art to process it. Releasing that art is an entirely different thing, right? Because once you processed it and created it, that chapter 1 is done. The choice to release it is because you believe that this thing might be useful to others. And I think that's kind of what we go for with Wonder Years is did it help me process? Do I now believe it will be useful for others to hear?
Right. Yeah, exactly. The touring aspect you have spoken about and, articulated in lyrics and everything like that. I'm curious as to how your relationship over time with touring has either changed or, focused. Have you, because there's always an excitement for the first couple of years as you're, touring and having that aspect of your life play itself out. How have you, I guess, learned how to enjoy aspects of touring now? Or is it obviously just kind of part of your job, so to speak? What's your relationship like now?
I love to play. I love to be on stage. I love to play music. Just my favorite thing in the world is going out and interacting with a crowd and feeding off of their energy and giving it back to them. That's my favorite thing. And I also love to explore. We're going to Mexico City soon. I'm so excited. I love going new places. I love seeing new things. I love checking stuff out. That all rules. What is not as cool now is that I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old and I hate leaving them. And it's different, when it was just me and my wife, we can FaceTime, we can text, it's really easy. And I can FaceTime the kids, but they don't get the same things out of it that an adult would. It's hard, it's hard to keep their attention for a long time on FaceTime. They just got, hey, Wyatt just got home from kindergarten and he's tired from a long day of learning. And it just doesn't have the bandwidth at that point to communicate his whole day to me. And then especially when you're on the other side of the world, we're in Australia. Hey, there's only 2 hours a day where we're both awake and it's right before you wake or right after you wake up or right before you go to sleep. That's, tough for a kid. And so I think that I'm trying to make a concerted effort to be choosier with our touring to make sure that the decisions we make are the best for the band and the best for the people in it, but also are not, detrimental to my child.
Right. There's other considerations besides is this tour sick and are we going to not lose our shirt on it? Cool. We'll do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it used to be oh, hell yeah, dude, let's go. We're going to go to Latin America for 2 weeks and we're only going to lose a couple $1,000. That's amazing.
Right.
And now it's it's hard to tell, a 3-year-old, hey, daddy's going to go away for a couple of weeks. And also we can't buy that wrestling toy because I am going to lose a lot of money doing it. See you in a bit. But
right.
I'm so happy to be home right now. Yesterday I got to be interim head coach of Wyatt's baseball team because the other 2 coaches couldn't come. And so they needed a parent to step up. It's
incredible.
If I was on tour, I would have missed that opportunity. And it's just fun. It's fun to be around them.
Trust me, you need to go to evilgreed.net because they are the purveyor of heavy music, merchandise, and records. And I know that sounds like a very basic, simple premise, but it is. The thing about them is they have a very specific point of view where they work with bands of all shapes and sizes, but fit into the lens that they view music through. And I can guarantee you that because you listen to this show, you will find so many previous guests' bands on there. They ship from Berlin, Germany, worldwide, no issues whatsoever. And the shipping rates to us here in the United States are very cheap. So whether you like bands like, Knocked Loose and Speed, or whether you like the more metal side of things like Blood Incantation and Nails, they have you covered. They also have exclusive pieces of vinyl and so many other things that are specific to what Evil Greed does. So go there, shop. Maybe you can talk to some of your friends and be like, yo, let's put in a group order together. And then we get it all in one package. And then boom, we've got the next, 3 holidays planned or your birthday or whatever it is. It truly brings me back to that feeling of when I ordered from the Revelation Records catalog or the Victory Records catalog, where it was just man, I literally can't find the end of this. I could probably spend thousands of dollars and I will not run out of things to buy. So go to evilgreed.net, shop away.
Something that I know that you have gone through a lot of different iterations on in regards to the music business at large. When you were booking shows, you were clearly part of the music business, even though you would never have described yourself as such. It seems like you've always had a interest and or somewhat of a passion for the music business side of things. Has that always been your interest? How's your relationship with it now? Is it just all right, we have people I trust that work around me, so I don't need to be as in the weeds, or do you like to be?
Man, I'm so deep.
Okay.
I've done it in other ways, right? I have worked as a booking agent. I've worked as a manager, right? But these words are kind of in air quotes. Because my goal was never to be I'm going to be a professional booking agent. My goal was to take bands that I thought, or the same thing with management, where I believe that there were bands that were deserving of a bigger space, a bigger audience, a bigger stage, and try to get them there and then hand them to a bigger agent or a more full-time manager. I managed, again, air quotes, a band for the last, for 5 years, and I literally never commissioned $1 from them. I was just trying to get them to a place where they could get better deals and on bigger tours, because I think that the music fucking rules and I wanted them to succeed. That was the same way I was as an agent. But as far as in my bands, there are a few, it's mostly me and our manager and my bass player that are kind of constantly right before we hopped on this, we were talking about the logistics for the truck going down to start the tour in Nashville. When is the merch pickup? When is the decking coming in? When do we get the lights? Did we hire all the crew members? Do we have all of their W-9 forms? All of this kind of banal minutia. I am really invested in trying to figure out how to get merch orders right. Because I don't want to be wasteful. It sucks to get to the end of a tour and be oh man, we have all this leftover fucking merch, and the amount of energy and water used to produce that. Imagine how much water was used to produce that cotton. Imagine how much energy was used to ship that shit around the world. I don't want to do that. And so I built this logistic regression equation to more accurately project merch sales so that we don't have that kind of leftover, and just and also then it's the same kind of shit when you're, hey, we ran out of stock really suddenly. Well, now we got to rush order some shit. So it's going to get flown in and use all that fucking jet fuel, and just trying to not do as much of that. So really, I get really in the weeds on the numbers for the ordering process and what data points are. It's so fucking boring. This is why I don't do podcasts. I'm so bored.
Hell, dude, are you kidding? I think when you reveal those instances of the things that you're passionate about, to me, I love reveling in the details, because it's that's the sort of stuff where it's it shows your train of thought and it's great because there are, you have obviously existed alongside many other bands where it's just the bass player just like shows up to play bass. And then there's
lock the fuck in, man. That is who handles
totally, but
like I'll tell you, like, okay, so today, this is what we've been doing today. We're talking to our lawyer because, and I don't want to tip too much of our hand here, but
sure,
a WWE wrestler asked us to write their new theme song, and we did. But now we're trying to get it across the finish line with like their lawyers. So talking about that. We recorded a new song last week. We're talking about the mix on that. I'm trying to get Aaron West made as a graphic novel, so I'm talking to an artist who's doing spec pages for that. We ordered a bunch of furniture for the next tour for the stage setup. Like that is arriving.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out launching the Australian web store. We are putting up new art for the Mexico City show today. We approved the merch quotes, and I feel like there are like 3 or 4 things I'm forgetting. Oh, we're getting a video chopped up because tomorrow we're gonna shock drop the live from New York Burst and Decay EP. It's never been on streaming. It was a record store day, so we're getting some content.
Yeah.
Just like these, like my to-do list is like 20 items long every day. I'm just like kind of dealing with a lot of little things.
Yeah, no, I love that because it just shows the not only the attention to detail and kind of the consistency of like you as a human, just being like, oh yes, I care about these things and I'm really focused on like not just the big picture stuff, but like the minuscule details of running a small business, which is essentially what you guys are now, and that's awesome.
There's just a lot of stuff to be focused on and a lot of like things I want to make that we're trying to stay on top of.
Of course. A few last things I wanted to hit you on was the you've expressed this notion, and even earlier in the interview, just like the making space. Like you guys are definitely of the mindset where you understand where the band is at in their your trajectory, and you're just like, yeah, we're old and we're not young anymore, and like now we're trying to obviously give back to younger bands, but then also not be the band that's taking up the space in, Nostalgia Fest 2.0 or whatever. Like, you're definitely very deliberate in the way that you're approaching it. Is part of that, I guess, thought process being like, we obviously want to have a logical transition point away from the band? Or is that simply just the fact that like, oh no, this is kind of the way that we were raised within the independent music scene. Like, you age out eventually.
I think that both things are true. Like, I think that like I try to be aware of the space that we take up, and like music isn't a zero-sum game. Like a rising tide lifts all ships, right? All of that is true. But certain things are finite resources. Like there are only so many venues in a city on a night. And if we're occupying one of them, that means somebody else can't be occupying one, right? A record label only has so much budget to put out albums that year. And if they're going to put out one of ours, that's budget that they can't allocate to another artist that now can't sign to that label or put out a record that year, right? And so one of our big things is like, we need to make sure that we are earning that space, that we don't rest on the laurels of what we've done before and say, this space is ours because we earned it once. Right? You earn it every time. You earn it every record. You earn it every tour. You earn it every show. If I'm going to occupy that venue that night, I'm going to put on a show that is worthy of holding that venue for us. If I'm going to put out a record that year, I'm going to put out a record that is worthy of that investment. If I don't feel like I'm making shit that's that quality, that's when we get out of the way, right? And then while we are still occupying that space, we can use it to try to lift and support artists that we believe in that are younger and could use the signal boost, could use the extended reach. And so we try to pick artists to bring on tour that way. That's usually like our first line of thinking is like, who do we think deserves this spot? And who do we think will be like a good custodian of this genre and this scene, for a long time into the future? We picking bands like Sweet Pill, picking bands like Anxious, like bringing those bands on tour, Origami Angel, Spanish Love Songs, Free Throw, like, we pick all those bands, like we kind of have a history of like, we brought Modern Baseball on a tour where they were one of five. We brought Story So Far on a tour where they were one of five. We brought Pool Kids on a tour. They were one of four. Like, we're just trying to give bands, and like the other great thing about it is like our fan base is so dope. It's like the thing I'm proudest of is like our fans are fucking awesome, and they're awesome to support bands, and they're attentive, and they listen to it, and they often find that if we picked that band for that tour, that they might end up loving that band. And so like bands that come on tour with us end up making a lot of fans, which is our fucking goal. Like that's what we were trying to do. So yeah, a lot of the time, like we are like kind of trying to be intentional about the space that we occupy. And then like, if we feel like we don't have it anymore, then we know we need to step back. You know, maybe that doesn't mean break up or never play again, but it means like, if I can't perform at that level this many nights in a row, then we can't do those kinds of tours anymore. Because the goal is not to be there, right? The goal is not to occupy the space. The goal is to be worthy of the space. The goal is to be fucking great. Like, I don't want to show up and be okay. I want to show up and be fucking great. I want to show up at 40 next year and have you go, God damn, that's better than the show he put on when he was 24.
Right. Right. And truthfully, like there's a very high likelihood of that because you are more prepared, intentional. You have the experience now versus, you know, when you were 24 and just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, like every 24-year-old is.
We work at it. It does. But like I said earlier, like it gets harder as you age. And like I had this abdominal surgery late last year that like I keep thinking I'm recovered from, but I lost a lot of strength and there's a lot more effort that goes into holding some notes now. And I'm sure that's going to come back. Right. And like, I probably need to do more physical therapy for it. And just like, but it's just, I think that it's just effort, right? We never want to not be putting that effort in.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. I mean, especially with the arc of the band's life, it's like you guys have always been able to, you know, show up and like you said, you know, offer something of value. And so it's like, if you're just like this, you know, like corpse of a band, it's like, I don't think any of you would feel very excited about that.
That's not what I want to do. Not who I want to be. And I can't imagine a world where it's not exciting for us to do it at least some of the time. But I can imagine a time where it's like, hey, we're going to do 10 shows this year, right? Like that feels like that's in the realm of possibility for us. Not yet, right? I still think we're playing at a high level. But I don't want to be, you know, a zombie shell of myself on stage.
Of course. You guys want to hear the Greatest Generation front to back? Again? Again?
Do it I love doing 10-year anniversary tours because I love playing songs that don't get played. I love celebrating records.
Of course.
You know, we never made a record that we thought was okay or, you know, pretty good. That would go against everything I just said. And so the opportunity to go celebrate those albums, that's exciting to me. Like, I think that there are some people that think of that as like a chore. That's not a chore to me. Like, oh, I get to play all these songs that I wrote and I fucking loved. Yeah, let's do that. And like doing it for, you know, Greatest Gen or doing it for Upsides and Suburbia, like, wow, like you guys love this song. We didn't know you even liked that. We should add it to the set list in the future, right? Like, that's fun.
Yeah. It's revealed. It's like a scavenger hunt. Yeah. You're just like, oh, wow. Oh, we found this. Okay. I guess we're doing this now.
At the same time, we made Hum most recently. It's the best Wonder Years record. It's not even close to me. Like, and I'm really hypercritical of our shit. Like, I listen back to records a year later and then 2 years later, and I keep going back and I keep critiquing this. What was wrong with this one? What could I do better on the next one? And I still go back to Hum and I'm like, yo, fucking 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Slammer. Yeah.
Front to back, man. It just goes.
And truthfully, I think, I mean, it's cool that you have the distance away, like where you are able to listen to it, you know, at these earmarked times to be able to critically look at it. Because yeah, it's like if you are listening to your stuff and you don't get that feeling of, yeah, this slams, like, it's like, then what are you even doing? Why are you even doing it?
Shit all the time.
Yeah.
You're making it. You get to pick what it sounds like. Pick something you're going to love.
Right. Totally. You don't have to sound like all the other bands out there. You don't have to follow a trend. Like, you can just do your thing.
Anything you want. Write a song that you love.
Right. The last thing I'll put you on the spot for is the just because you do come from a very fertile ground of music and you have a lot of experience, putting on shows, playing shows in that area, the greater Philadelphia area. What would you put as your sort of Mount Rushmore of? And this doesn't have to, obviously, even though we're etching it in stone right here, like clearly there's no wrong answers, so don't feel the pressure. Who would you put, the four bands that are very important to you from your general scene that were either formative or are obviously just important for you as a human being?
Okay. Four bands. Number one is Blacklisted. One of the most important bands of my lifetime. I saw them play the Third and Walnut, it was what it was called, in Lansdale, down the street from where I grew up, a place I booked shows to. I think the trombone player from Aaron West actually booked that one. And it was
so good.
Warriors, This Is Hell, Blacklisted. And man, watching George play shifted so much for me. It's one of the shows that I cite, there are certain shows that you see. We saw Envy play at Emo's in Austin on tour once, Painted Black played outside on 13th Street in Philly. Like, there's shows that y'all never forget. Blacklisted at Third and Walnut. Peace on Earth, War on Stage had come out. Heavy Than Heaven hadn't yet. And yeah, Blacklisted is on it.
Beautiful.
A band that probably most people have not heard of, but I think was so important for me from our local scene. They were called the Minor Times. It was the other guys from Inkling that weren't Brian. And the singer of this band, Fairmont. And it's like Botch and Dead Guy and Coalesce and just like mathy and chaotic and like unbelievably heavy. But they would play to a level that made you level up, right? Like you would watch them play and go, I have to be better or I shouldn't be on this show. And they would bring their own lighting setup that they built out of shit that they bought at Home Depot and wired up themselves, and play with 2 810s and 2 fucking triple rec full stacks. They'd have to bring their own PA to shows because the other PA couldn't handle getting over their amps. And when they would get into these fucking DIY spaces, they'd go and open the fuse box and run cables across the room, because if they were all on the same circuit, they'd shut the fucking power off. But they performed at a level that I could not. It was just kind of incomparable. Especially at that stage. I'd never seen anyone put that much of themselves into it and play with that level of intensity and passion. And I thought, so yeah, Blacklisted, the Minor Times. The starting line was incredibly important to me. Ken is 1 year older than me and from the high school down the road. And so when you're in high school and you hear, this kid from Hatboro Horsham gets to, not go to his senior year and instead go tour the world, you go, oh shit, it's possible. It's real. That was the first where I was like, this is tangibly real. This is a thing that could fucking happen because it happened to somebody down the street. And the first time I saw them, they played, it was outside Hatboro Horsham High School, at a battle of the band.
So good.
And just an unbelievable songwriter and singer, and has done so much cool shit with Personnel and Vacationer and such a talent. But the starting line were huge for me, not just because I loved the songs, but because they made it feel possible.
Mm-hmm.
Who's for? It's kind of, it might be like a slash here. So
this is you make the rules, dog.
Because
yeah,
people or some of the same people.
But there was this yeah.
Called Like Lions that nobody heard.
Oh, I definitely familiar, yeah.
And I saw them because they were playing with Zoloft the Rock and Roll Destroyer, which is Vince Ratty, who produced our first record and mixes a lot of our stuff still in his band. And I just thought they were unbelievable, and they broke up immediately. But then a bunch of them went on to start Algernon. And so it's kind of like Lions / Algernon was a pretty important band for me. Okay.
That's I love that.
Putting too much thought in it, I'm going to say those are the four: Blacklisted, Minor Times, starting line, Lions / Algernon.
it paints a perfect picture of that area, and also like the I mean, you mentioning Blacklisted, George, like the similarities that I see between you and George, like there, and this isn't just to like blow smoke up your butt, but like there's definitely, it's like you guys just took a different musical approach, and it's like, yeah,
is man, what a fucking artist. I
totally.
So the Heavier Than Heaven release show at the church, subverting expectations of what hardcore was at the time, to walk out on stage to Cat Power before going right into, they go right into Memory Lane or Touchdown. It just like the juxtaposition was awesome. The way he carries himself between songs, like I still do it as like an homage to this band is called Blacklisted. Like I say this band is called The Wonder Years every night. Right, as like a,
that's so,
and like I don't know him at all. Never met. The only one in Blacklist I know is Bean, and that's just because like we ended up at the same like children's parties sometimes. Like our kids are the same friend group, so it's like
sure.
funny to be like, meet the guy from Blacklisted at a pool party for a 4-year-old, but like. I was like, holy shit.
Totally.
Heavier Than Heaven changed the life, man. And nobody deserves to be here more than me. The first time I heard our apartment is always empty, I thought, I want to punch a hole in the earth and bury myself in.
Right. And you're like, hey, do you want some birthday cake?
I'm going to get a hot dog from the snack stand if you're interested.
Totally. No, that's really, it's cool because I think that's what is really special about the way that many bands are influenced by. It's like you just take these pieces from all of these disparate elements, and if you're able to incorporate them in an authentic way, it's just like, it's really cool. And so like to be able to say that, you know, the Wonder Years was influenced by Blacklisted is, you know, it's a really cool thing because musically you obviously are very dissimilar. So it's cool.
I mean, if you look at that list, like people might be like, I guess I hear the starting line, but like no one's hearing the Minor Times or Black.
No.
And also, like, I feel like I'm talking about bands that like a lot of people don't even know ever existed, right? Like, but it kind of points to how important like throwing shows and DIY shows and VFWs were to me and to the Wonder Years. So we wouldn't exist without that. Like, it's crazy to me to meet bands now that never played them, never played a basement, right? Like, man, we played so many fucking West Philly basement shows. PA is broken. I'm just screaming. And that some bands don't do that. And it's just like, I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think it's weird because like, it's so foundational to me. Like DIY punk and hardcore is so foundational to how I learned every bit of this. It's how I learned how to sing. People say like, why do you sing so loud? I'm like, because all we played were basement shows. If I'm not singing that loud, the PA sucks. If I don't sing that loud, you don't hear me. Like, that's how I learned how to support notes and belt, is like getting over the drum kit, like getting over the amps. Like, otherwise, like I don't exist at all. That stuff is,
you're like, I'm singing out of a bass amp. Like we don't even have a PA.
yeah.
Yeah,
that stuff was so foundational. So yeah, that's how the Mount Rushmore comes to be.
That was Dan Campbell, and shout out to him. Shout out to Jamie Coletta, the publicist with the mostest or something. But, you know, I appreciate when friends help me talk to other friends, and it just works out so well. So huge shout out to Dan. And like I said, Wonder Years are doing a bunch of stuff in the late summer and fall, and check out their newest Burst and Bloom Volume 3 Burst and Decay. Burst and Bloom is a cursive EP. So, you know, these things get confused in my brain, but just came out in early May, and that whole series is well worth it because basically it's songs stripped down. It's really, really good. They bring in guests, and it's really, really good. Anyways, next week on the show, talk about diversity. We have Mike Weichart from Heaven Shall Burn, the main guitarist for long running. We're talking like 20 plus years. Metalcore giants over in Germany, and they do well many other places. But Mike, I have known for a long time. It was great to reconnect with them. So I'm thrilled to bring Heaven Shall Burn to you next week. Talk about range, right? All right. Until then, please be safe, everybody.